It is Beyond the Box Score 2.0 version. The boys are back.
Little blast from the past,
Star Spangled Banter. Connor, you go first.
This is going to sound completely crazy.
Win me a few more games before you start dancing. That's all I ask.
That is the difference between being good and being great.
How about that segue right there, baby?
Forward bounce, just get it out of here.
You like that?
And they let the team down on Sunday. Last call.
Good evening. It is Beyond the Box Score here on a Wednesday evening this time. Switched it up a little bit. We're on a Wednesday. Connor Priester across the screen. I'm Cole Johnson, and we're not separated because of COVID-19 protocol. It's because we're in different parts of the country. Connor's in Tonawanda. I'm in Tully, New York, and we got a lot for you today. More moving on in the NFL. Divisional round just wrapped up. We're on to the conference title games coming up this weekend. And, some news today. Phillip Rivers retiring. Patrick Mahomes still in some protocol limited at practice, Connor. We got a lot to get to.
Yeah, Mahomes still in concussion protocol. And listen, the first thing I want to get out of the way, we know for a fact he's playing. So, especially if you have any type of interest in this game, if you're a Bills fan like me, for a fact he's going to play. And honestly, as a Bills fan, I want to play Patrick Mahomes. If we're going to get to the Super Bowl, I want to take down the best. I don't want the easy route. I don't want to have an asterisk next to the Super Bowl if they get there and if they win it. But definitely, he's going to play. I don't think there's a shot in hell that he sits out for this game. But what a weekend of football. A lot of the games did not go the way that we thought they were. We were kind of wrong on a lot of them, and we were right with the pick, but we were wrong with how the games would kind of turn out, especially with that Tampa Bay game, thinking it was going to be a shootout. It was almost the opposite of that until Tampa kind of opened it up a little bit at the end of the game. But this conference championship weekend is going to be exciting. It's going to be just an absolute showdown between four teams.
Yeah, and those four teams, each with their own narrative, each with their own story. Just the matchups are very intriguing, great for the NFL. So we hope Patrick Mahomes is okay for that matchup. I think it would taste a lot sweeter in Buffalo's mouth if they get to beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City rather than a Chad Henne. But with that being said, Connor, we got, our regular roundup here. We're going to recap the divisional weekend, where we're right or wrong, show our little sneak peek of our brackets and how they're rolling out. And just to let you know, spoiler alert, they're looking pretty good. Then we have a new game, a little fortune teller for 2021 in the NFL season. But Connor, you're starting us off here. Star Spangled Banter. What do we got today?
Yeah, so we're nothing too crazy. We're just going to look at basically, what we're looking forward to this weekend, and then moving on to Super Bowl weekend as well. This year, I believe, my personal opinion, I think it's the most intriguing years for Super Bowls that we've had in quite some time. Yes, the emergence of the Chiefs in the beginning of a dynasty the last few years has been remarkable and exciting to watch and be able to see it unfold. And yeah, the Tom Brady era and the Bill Belichick Patriots were dominant basically for the last 20 years. Yes, the Eagles won with a backup quarterback, but look, the potential matchups that we're looking at right now, and even just look at the conference championships right now. You have Kansas City versus Buffalo. We'll start there. Kansas City versus Buffalo. This is a matchup that everyone's been talking about since the second half of the season because the way that Josh Allen's been playing on that Mahomes type level we've been talking about, and just the way that the whole entire team has been playing to the level of the Kansas City Chiefs. So everyone has been kind of using the Kansas City Chiefs as that benchmark, obviously, for who the best in the NFL is. And there were times where, national media is saying that it was Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2, sometimes 1A, 1B. Excuse me. So, that matchup right there speaks for itself. And two really young quarterbacks, just basically fighting for, who's going to be the face of the NFL for the next couple of years almost. And it starts with this game coming up. You look at the NFC side and you got Tampa Bay versus Green Bay, and it's, two grizzly old veterans. And this is something that is, again, it's the same type of magnitude of Brady versus Breeze. And whoever's going to move on from that, it's going to set up for, no matter what, I think is going to be a remarkable Super Bowl. So we'll just take a look. Just running down the hypothetical situations that we got here. Obviously, there's only four of them. Kansas City versus Tampa Bay. The rematch between Brady and Mahomes, a game that needed extra time to see who advanced to the Super Bowl in 2019. Remember that game? That game was a thriller. Can Brady win it all without needing Bill and Bob Kraft? That's basically the narrative that's going to be going into it if Tampa Bay makes it to the Super Bowl. Can he do it? Is this the start of another dominant Tampa Bay team, or is it just a year they're just going to completely sell out for? A lot of storylines leading up to it. And we just the most successful quarterback in NFL history versus someone who could potentially follow in his footsteps, being Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City versus Tampa Bay is intriguing. Kansas City versus Green Bay. This one, I know I always pray and I always kind of hope and try and predict a shootout in hopes that it'll happen. But this one could be a shoot. The two most dominant offenses in the NFL going toe-to-toe. Not only that, but you got Mahomes and Tyreek Hill versus Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Two of the most ridiculous quarterback wide receiver duos, that we've seen in quite some time. That game should spell shootout as well. I mean, I say shootout probably at least 5 times a show, but I think this one is one that we could legitimately see be a shootout. Moving on to the next one. Buffalo versus Green Bay. To me, this is actually one of the least intriguing matchups, and that should say something because this one has Buffalo in it, and obviously I'm a Buffalo fan. But it's the least intriguing matchup to me. But it's my 2 top MVP leaders right now being Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. So that's a good storyline. Other story, you could look at Micah Hyde, have a Micah Hyde revenge game. He came from Green Bay. 2 young, talented coaches going at it, being LaFleur and McDermott. And that game could just be a game of who can get the last stop or even that last score. It could be. I think it would be a tight ball game, but I don't want to think about Green Bay in the Super Bowl right now because I don't know if anyone's going to beat Green Bay. But the last one, that's my personal favorite, Buffalo versus Tampa Bay. And oh my God, if this happened, I don't know if the city of Buffalo would burn before the Super Bowl or after, no matter what the outcome. For years, Bills Mafia has been waiting to rid Tom Brady from the AFC East, let alone just the NFL. And for years, he's dominated Buffalo with the Patriots. And how about everything just coming full circle and they square off in the damn Super Bowl? In Tampa Bay. How ironic and how iconic of a matchup would that be? 2 elite offenses, 2 top-tier defenses right now. It's like booking a WWE pay-per-view or a boxing match. It has 5 stars written all over it. But no matter of those 4 matchups, I think no matter who we have this year, it's going to be an absolute showdown. It has all the makings of one of the best Super Bowls in a long time. And in a year that has been just so damaged, a year that no one thought that we would find peace, I find so much excitement just knowing that one of these matchups is going to happen. And I'm fired up.
That last one is intriguing. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, it's something that that didn't really even cross my mind until last week. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Tom Brady in Buffalo.
I don't think I could have seen them making the Super Bowl towards the back stages of the regular season. Like they started to get really hot and then they just look dominant against the Saints. They look dominant in the wild card round too. And it's like it's always those teams that when they get hot at the right time, and Tampa's getting hot right now.
And Tom Brady in December and January, it's at his best. But that all 4 of these matchups, I'm down for it. We're gonna dig deep into it on Friday and make our picks and really decide what's going to happen this weekend. But any of those matchups, I'm cool with. I'm good to watch the Super Bowl with any of those storylines heading in. So with that being said, Connor, good stuff. I'm totally with you, in agreement there. But let's hop on to the divisional round recap. Another good weekend of football. Not as many games as the wild card, but we'll still settle for 2 doubleheaders in a row. And it started off in Lambeau with the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers and then the 6th seeded LA Rams. Connor, going into this game, I think we both agreed that Green Bay, early on in the week, we both set a 2-score game. You brought it down to 1. We had Frank on last week. He said it was going to be a 2-score game by Green Bay. And it happened to be that way, 32-18. Aaron Rodgers was just Aaron Rodgers. 23 of 36, 296 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He ran one in as well. Aaron Jones, 99 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And Devontae Adams, that duo that you talked about, 9 catches, 66 yards and a touchdown. In a play on his touchdown that was just a breakdown on the Rams, Jalen Ramsey couldn't get it all the way across because they put Adams in motion. And that's why Green Bay's been so efficient on offense. They're so clever with it. They put Adams in motion. Guys can't keep up. That led to that touchdown. But, Green Bay outrushed the Rams 188-96 in this game. And that was behind Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, and Jamal Williams, excuse me. Cam Akers had 90 of the 96 by himself. And Connor, we said that LA could, have this game, have a chance to win at the end, or even win this game if they could outrun the Packers, slow the tempo down, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, and limit Goff as much as possible. It was kind of flipped early on because Jared Goff actually looked really good early on. He had some nice throws. He was pretty precise. I mean, he went 21 and 27, only 174 yards, but he was very efficient through the air. So it was kind of a flip as to what we thought. And Green Bay was the one who kind of ran away with the run game. And that was kind of the big turning point in this game was Green Bay's rushing attack. And that's scary if they can keep that rolling into this week.
Yeah, I really thought that the Rams would put up a little bit of a better fight. The offense wouldn't shock the world, but really thought that they could, slow down the Green Bay offense. But right now, I don't think there's a team that can slow down the Green Bay offense. They just look absolutely dominant on that side of the football. They're the biggest threat to everyone left, I think, especially starting with the Bucs, and then either the Chiefs or the Bills, and they're scary. And the offense right now is arguably the best in football, the best of the last 4 teams.
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers in what most likely will be an MVP year, getting that NFC title game at home in Lambeau. And I think he's ready to turn the tide. This is the Green Bay team that I mentioned a week or two ago. The amount of times that they've gotten this deep and just things don't go their way. I made a playoff hype video last weekend, and I realized that Green Bay was on the wrong side of about 3 or 4 overtime games, and that's just in this century. And with Aaron Rodgers, they came up short in years that everyone thought they were a Super Bowl contender. So this might be the year. They have it at home. You got to go through Lambeau to get to the Super Bowl. That's going to be an incredible game. We'll get to Tampa Bay in a minute, but the second game on Saturday night game on NBC in Buffalo, a 17-3 win. Josh Allen, 23 for 27, 206 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, not much of a factor through the air, 14 to 24, 162 yards and a pick. That pick was the 101-yard interception return for a touchdown by Taron Johnson. That was the turning point in that game. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen again, 8 catches, 106 through the air and a touchdown for Diggs. Buffalo only 32 rushing yards, and we've talked about it. They haven't been able to run the football as much as you'd like to see, but you don't need it when you have Josh Allen and Diggs going connecting like they have been. I mean, even John Brown had 8 catches on Saturday as well. He came in as well. But Baltimore 150 rushing yards between Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, and then Huntley, who came in for the injured Jackson. But it kind of, Connor, was unexpected low scoring. I didn't think it was going to be a shootout, but I think I called for a 24, 20, at least in the 20s. Only 1 offensive touchdown in this entire game. Baltimore came out strong rushing in the first drive, but then they were kind of stunned by 2 Justin Tucker missed field goals, who's arguably one of the greatest kickers of all time. I've never seen him miss 2. He dunked 2 of them off the upright. And after that, Baltimore kind of got away from their rushing game. I texted you and was like, why'd they stop, setting up and running the ball out of the backfield? They kind of started dropping Lamar Jackson back, and he wasn't being effective. He was getting ran around. He was circling around people, jumping around, and nothing was happening. And the Bills secondary was outstanding. But they kind of turned away from the run game, and that gave a advantage to Buffalo. And then there's a 14-point swing on that pick 6. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson goes down in the end zone, leaves the game. And a lot of people are going to say, the Bills won because Lamar got hurt. But, I mean, at that point, I said it to you, that game was already over at that point.
Yeah, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So I was watching the game with family and my dad. I don't get to watch the games with my dad much because he normally works. But he's your typical, I'm going to talk about everything and talk way too loud during a game. And Justin Tucker setting up for that first field goal, he's shouting, he's going to miss. He's going to miss. And I'm like, Dad, shut up. This is like the best kicker in football history. He's not going to miss. These are just chip shots for him. I don't care if it's almost 50 yards. He's going to make it. I don't care if there's wind. I don't care what's going on. First one he misses a chip shot off the left upright. I'm like, oh my God. Second one, I think, was a little further out. It might have been flip-flopped. He hits the other upright, and I'm like, then of course I got my dad just screaming in my ear, "What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Best kicker in the NFL? Yeah, sure." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!" But that just doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know what it's like kicking a football in January in Buffalo, because I haven't ever seen it, and I haven't seen what it can do. But I mean, I guess the best kicker in NFL history. I mean, I guess it's tough for him, because like I said, that's really my first time really seeing someone have trouble with the wind in Buffalo in January, because they don't ever get there. But just that play by Taron Johnson, it was almost that exact same play that we saw that he made against Pittsburgh in the regular season. And it's a franchise-altering play, and it's one that's going to go down as one of the biggest plays in team history. Because if Baltimore scores there, it's a whole different game. We might not even be looking at the Bills in the AFC Championship this week. And just that play alone, I mean, I watched it, I think, probably at least 10 or 15 times, either that night or the couple days after, listening to the calls by all play-by-play announcers, and just the play was unbelievable. And it's, I don't know, it's just giving me chills thinking about it, because it was just so unexpected. It was just one of those things, because it was kind of a little bit of a boring game, and then it's just like, that was like the one thing that got me like standing up. I was like, oh my God. But then going back to just picking apart the game a little bit, I said that the offensive line and the defensive line were going to have a big game this week due to the week prior where they looked weak. And they definitely won the battle of the trenches. They got the job done, got the Lamar, couldn't throw the ball. Defense was unbelievable. As you mentioned, the secondary was unreal as well. I also said that last week, that this coaching staff can game plan for any team in the NFL. And they did exactly that. And they outcoached and outschemed Harbaugh and Roman and the rest of the Baltimore coaching staff. And that's what it came down to, was just who was going to be more prepared. And it was the Buffalo Bills, even though they don't have that playoff experience that Harbaugh had. So it all came down to that. And they did it to, I wouldn't say to perfection, because the offensive side could definitely have been better, but the defensive side was near perfect.
Yeah. So the Bills, moving on, AFC title game. First time in your life, Connor. Just one word to describe it. What is it?
I'll take a word out of your common dictionary. Incredible.
Good. It's good to hear. And hey, today, because of that Bills win, we got to see on live television Nick Wright get mustard and ketchup in his face because of a deal he made with Colin Cowherd. That was pretty fun. I sent it to you. I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, good. I saw it.
Good. Anyway, moving on. Here we go to the other AFC game on Sunday afternoon. Kansas City and Cleveland. Things were a little different in that one too, but I can say I was right about Cleveland covering the +10. I hammered that all week long. You got to take Cleveland. It's going to be a close game. Cleveland had a chance to win this football game, and they squandered it. Don't even get me started on, kicking the ball. I think you have to punt on 4th and 9. You got to trust your defense a little bit. But in that moment, you have a chance, Cleveland, to win another playoff game in Kansas City. You have Mahomes on the bench. You might go for it. We can debate about it forever time until next year when we forget about it. But Cleveland stuck in that game, and here's the thing. A lot of people are going to blame that fumble by Rashard Higgins at the half-yard line into the end zone, touchback Kansas City ball, on them losing the game. I'll get to it in a minute. There is another reason why that is not true. But a 22-17 win by Kansas City. Mahomes 21 of 30, 255 yards and a touchdown. That's before he exited injured, left the field, didn't come back in the third quarter. Baker Mayfield went 23-37, 204 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Tyreek Hill, another dynamic duo, as you said, with Mahomes, 8 catches, 110 yards. Kansas City outrushed Cleveland, 123-112. Kansas City scored on every possession outside of a missed field goal by Harrison Butker when Mahomes was on the field. Went down with an injury with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Cleveland had a chance to bring it within 3 before that Higgins fumble. Of course, that was a huge turning point. I'm not taking that away. But if you keep Mahomes on the field and he doesn't go down, I don't think Cleveland stops this Kansas City offense one bit. I think Kansas City scores on almost every drive, and Cleveland can only keep up for so long. It eventually would have been a 3-score game in my eyes. despite that, the biggest play and the hero of our week, I think, goes to Chad Henne. It's a 3rd and 14. If they don't get a first down, they're punting it away, and Cleveland has a minute and a half to go down the field and score a game-winning touchdown, which is plenty of time, even with no timeouts. And then they go on 4th and inches, and they pull out a sprint right and a pass to Tyreek Hill for a first down to ice it. Andy Reid has, he's got something in him. I'm not going to say it on air here, but that's the call of the playoffs. And Connor, if you have one coach to call a play and get you a first down with your life on the line, I'm picking Andy Reid. Huge call. You could have just done a QB sneak. You could have ran up the middle. No, they bring Tyreek Hill in the slot. Chad Henne perfectly sprints to his right. Could be a run, could be a pass. Flips it to Tyreek Hill. Game over. And they get away with a win in a close game without Patrick Mahomes on the field for the final 23 minutes of the game.
Before I add my comment, we got some live chat here from, avid listener and occasional guest James Mizracola. He disagrees with you and thinks that you can't punt in that situation.
Yeah, we already talked about this, James, and I told you. If you have any I understand from one side of it, but that's the decision you have to make in under 30 seconds as an NFL coach. And if you got to have a little trust in your defense. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so Cleveland deserved to lose this game. The better team won. The better coaching staff won. The game was essentially handed to them almost with Mahomes going down. And what is known to be one of the better offensive lines of football couldn't stop the Kansas City pass rush. Baker had no time. And when Chad Henne comes in and closes a one-score game against you, you deserve to lose. Credit to Chad Henne. He played his heart out. 2 huge plays, big-time plays. But if you're Cleveland, you need to capitalize off the pick you had. You need to put up points against a Kansas City defense that can be exploited. Credit to the Kansas City defense as well, though. They came out to play, very well coached. And here's my take on it. Yeah, great call on 4th down by Andy Reid. Well, that's what good teams do. All right, everyone was saying that it was a real risky call, but was it? Kind of. Yeah, with Chad Henne in. That's what makes it incredible. But we should all be used to seeing that from Andy Reid and the Chiefs by now, because that's what they do. That's what good teams do. And that's kind of how Andy Reid almost evolved how coaches call 4th downs now. And even going for it on 4th down, he's one of the most aggressive coaches in doing so. And the way that he executes or has his team execute on 4th down completely changes everything. I mean, even when it comes to goal line plays as well. I mean, we saw how much he used that tight end screen or that tight end shovel pass with Travis Kelce, and how many teams jumped on that bandwagon. And was I impressed? Yeah, because it was Chad Henne. But was I surprised and impressed with the play call? No, because that's just what Andy Reid does, and that's my opinion. Is it the call of the playoff? I don't know if I agree with that. But I mean, it was a great call. Definitely one that can put the nail in the coffin. But to me, I just don't think it's as incredible as you think, and a lot of people think, just because I'm used to seeing that from Andy Reid by now. And I just kind of expect it. I expect some type of flashy play like that on 4th and short to win a ball game. Sorry to play bad guy, but
no, I'm not saying I absolutely expected them to go for it. I just didn't think it was going to be a pass.
Yeah.
And it's a ballsy call, I will say, because if and you're doing it with a guy who hasn't stepped on the field in a playoff game in his 13-year career, so that's a really big risk. He could throw it away. It goes incomplete, and Cleveland gets the ball at the 40-yard line with over a minute to go. That's why I'm saying it's the call of the year, because a lot of guys aren't doing that. There's a lot of coaches in this league that would not make that call. And that's why he is one of the best. It's why he's now made it to a 3rd straight conference title game for the 2nd time in his career. So
I can think of 3 other coaches that make that call.
Okay.
You want to know who?
Sure. I just said nobody I was exaggerating. Who?
LaFleur, Arians, and McDermott. And that's why they're all in the conference championship.
Coincidence? I think not.
Good coaching gets you good coaching. Good coaching and a quarterback. That's all you need. Good coaching, good coordinators, and a quarterback. That's all you need.
Agreed. So, with that being said, on to the last one. I hate to say I told you so, but we'll save that for a little bit later. Connor and I both picked Tampa Bay to win this one. Connor said earlier, it wasn't quite the shootout we expected, but Tampa Bay wins this one 30-20. Tampa Bay wins this one by scoring 30 points, and a lot of it was because of turnovers. This game came down to 3 Drew Brees interceptions. So, Tom Brady won this game, only thrown for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think the huge part to this Tampa Bay offense this week was getting Leonard Fournette that many touches. And it's something, Connor, you said earlier in the year, we were kind of both surprised he wasn't getting the ball more. And on Sunday, Leonard Fournette had 17 carries for 63 yards, and then Ronald Jones had another 13 carries for 62 yards. They pounded the football. They picked up first downs on 3rd and short. They, kept the New Orleans offense off the field as much as they could. And guess what? Cameron Brate was the leading receiver on this football team. You have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, and Cameron Brate was the leading receiver with 4 catches for 50 yards. This is why Tom Brady does what he does and why he wins playoff games. Spread the wealth, find the guy who's open, make the simple play. And he took advantage of a game that came down to turnovers. The turning point, I think, was the Jared Cook fumble. It's a tie game. He fumbles it. Tampa Bay gets the ball right around midfield. They score a touchdown, take the lead. And then another Drew Brees interception. Tampa Bay had 3 more minutes of possession time and 1 extra drive, more than New Orleans did. You eliminate Brees turnovers, even just one of them, and the Saints probably control the clock and an extra possession and increase their chance by a lot. Brady took advantage of that. And if there's one thing we've learned in the last 20 years, it's that you have to limit the amount of times Tom Brady gets the football in a playoff game. And New Orleans just absolutely threw that away. And I didn't think it was going to come down to turnovers. I thought it was going to be a clean game, a game that put up over probably 60, 70 points between the two. But, turnovers turn a game, and Tampa Bay took advantage of them, and they're on to the NFC title game.
Yeah, and this is where me and you kind of think alike, because I talked about the run game in my notes as well. But to start, the Tampa Bay defense was just unreal. They forced Brees to throw the ball. Thomas was basically obsolete, and the Tampa Bay defense just did everything right. And so what was big to me is that they have a solid run game now. Earlier in the year, it looked like Ronald Jones was going to be the workhorse. And going back to what you mentioned, I even bounced Leonard Fournette. I said that Leonard Fournette is going to be done in Tampa Bay because Ronald Jones was going off, and then Ronald Jones started to have a fall off, battling a couple injuries. And then Fournette started to take off a little bit, especially in the playoffs. And what are they calling now? Like playoff Lenny or something like that? yeah, they're calling him like playoff Lenny. And but having 2 backs that you can rely on and run the ball effectively like that, and Jones and Fournette with Tom Brady, like that's Tom Brady's Super Bowl formula. And combine that with Evans, Godwin, Scotty Miller, Cameron Brate, and Gronk. That's scary. That offense is extremely dynamic. And if the defense plays again like that this week, look out, Green Bay. If you force Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones and company to turn the ball over, look out, because maybe this can be the team that slows down Green Bay. And we'll get into our predictions later on in the week. But as for the Saints, I am sad. It's the end of an era. That post-game shot of Brees walking off, looking back, just kind of taking it all in one more time. Then the moment with this, I texted you after that. I was like, first, the shot of him on the bench, I was like, that's the face of a man who just played his last football game. And then when he looked back, I was like, yeah, Cole, I don't know if you saw that, but he's done. He just looked back purposely to look at the stadium one last time. And then the moment with his family and Brady on the field afterwards, just chills, tears, and it just pulls at the heartstrings. One of the best. And then also finding out later today that he played his final year with I'm missing an injury in here. It was reported that he played with a torn rotator cuff, 11 broken ribs, a collapsed lung. There was one other one, and I forgot what it was. But it shows his character. It shows what type of a player he was. And don't give me the crap of, he hurt his team by playing hurt. No, that's what gamers do. That's what competitors do. That's what a dog does. And that's what Drew Brees was. And he would have given the Saints the best chance of winning. And he goes off not on his own terms, but I feel like we will see Drew Brees back in the NFL at some point in the near future, whether it be a coach or something like that at the front office, because he's going to be back.
Yeah, and I'm in total agreement with you there. I can see him being a coach. I can also see him being in the broadcast booth. Another Tony Romo up there. But
we need more guys like that, because Tony Romo, you could think he's a little annoying, a little bit extra sometimes when he gets super excited because he gets a little cringy. But he's having him kind of basically lay out. You kind of got to be I wouldn't say a hardcore fan, but know like what's going on in order to enjoy Tony Romo, because he kind of speaks in football terms and not, the casual fans gonna understand it. But the way that he lays everything out before a play happens and then see it actually happen, it's mind blowing. He's just a great guy to have in the booth. And yeah, I mean, Drew Brees could do the same thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I absolutely love Tony Romo aside, one of the best to ever do it, and Jim Nantz at play-by-play. They're a great duo. I love playoffs time, especially on CBS. But yeah, that was it for Drew Brees, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there. And people saying that he hurt his team by playing. New Orleans doesn't get there, I don't think, with James Winston. They don't get there with Taysom Hill being under center the entire season. It, like I said multiple times, it worked for 3 weeks, and then it kind of fell off the wagon again, and that loss to Philadelphia. And then Brees comes back. You're not going to sit a guy who's been the face of this franchise for over a decade. So he was there. He gives you the best chance to win. And now it's over, and now you got to find something else. That team needs to rebuild because they're in some cap trouble. I don't know what
they got a lot of money tied up in Taysom Hill.
It was absurd with the amount of cap space that they're under. They're way over. They have to do a lot of damage control this offseason. And just the way the last 4 years of Drew Brees' career ended, the 4 playoff losses the New Orleans Saints have gone through have been incredible. And I'm not even going to mention them because it hurts if you're a Saints fan, and I apologize. But that being said, we'll move on. We'll shift to this, Connor. The viewers can't see it. Well, if you watch our full show put on our YouTube channel afterwards, you'll be able to see it. But we're going to pull up our brackets that we did before the playoffs started. And outside of a wild card game here and there that we got wrong, Connor, you had Chicago actually beating New Orleans, so they would have been playing against Green Bay. Regardless, you had Green Bay moving on. And then I had Pittsburgh beating Cleveland, so there's just a mix of Cleveland playing in Kansas City versus who would have been Baltimore would have been playing in Kansas City instead of Cleveland. Outside of that, Connor, though, we can, we don't want to toot our own horns here or anything. We don't want to say we were right about and be arrogant, but hey, we have all 4 teams in the conference title games. We have Tampa Bay versus Green Bay, Buffalo against Kansas City. Man, we did a good job. We did this before the playoffs started, so we got to get some credit here. And the big one is, though, we got Buffalo and Green Bay moving on to the Super Bowl. I mean, that was our initial thought. We're going to have to do some digging and make our own predictions for this weekend since based off of what happened in the divisional. But I have to give us a pat on the back for all you people who thought the Saints were getting back there, for all the people who doubted the Buffalo Bills, which I did for a half a second last week just because I wanted to be evil. But I've been all in on the Bills the whole time. Just side note for all you people. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? We got 4 for 4 on the conference title.
Yeah, I really thought that there'd be some mega upset in the wild card, so I kind of went with Chicago. And you were talking about the underdogs and having an upset every week, and we really haven't had a giant upset. So that was my reasoning behind Chicago going to beating New Orleans. They just seemed like a weird team to pull off an upset.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, still got the Final Four right. I mean,
and
see what happens this week.
There were some ups. I mean, you could call them upsets or not. I mean, if you make the playoffs, you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. That's that. But 4 out of the 6 wildcard games were won by the road team, if you want to call those upsets. So we got most of those right. So that was good. But I mean, good job to us. Hopefully we can pull through this weekend and, have the correct Super Bowl matchup. I don't know if I want to go as far as what I did this weekend. And right before the Tampa Bay game, I tweeted and Facebook that Tom Brady was going to win for the Bucs, and I'm going to cash in and take my beautiful girlfriend on a early Valentine's date. I don't know if I want to go that far this weekend, but if things go the way that I planned before the playoffs started, we're cashing in again this weekend because I got Buffalo and Green Bay as a Super Bowl matchup. So let's go. Let's go. All right. We got a new game for you this week and this week only. And we're going to call it the 2021 NFL Fortune Teller. Connor Priester, I have, there's a lot of movement that we believe and that everyone else thinks is going to happen this offseason. There's a lot of different scenarios. With the Jets losing the number 1 pick to Jacksonville, I think it's a shoo-in. Jacksonville is going number 1 Trevor Lawrence. But now the New York Jets have a lot of options. They can draft Justin Fields. They can not get a quarterback and stick with Sam Darnold. They could trade away their picks for a Deshaun Watson that's been swirling in rumors. So there's a lot of possible landing spots for a lot of very interesting QB pool. There's a lot of QBs that could be on the move this offseason. So it's about who fits best where, what teams need to take a swing for the fences on this and go right now before another team takes it. There's been new head coaches landing in different spots. Philadelphia and Houston are the only ones still looking. So here we go, Connor. NFL Fortune Teller for the 2021 season. Who will be these teams' quarterback next season? I'm going to start with the New York Jets. Go.
They're going to trade the number 2 pick and 2 other first-round picks, throw in a couple others as well, and maybe someone from the defensive side of the ball, maybe 2. And you have your franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson, and they buy big for 2021, and they make a push for the postseason. I have Deshaun Watson being the New York Jets starting quarterback. Oh, and here's the interesting tidbit that I saw. I forgot what show I was watching. He's only making roughly around $10 million next season. For a very, very good quarterback, that is low, very low, because his contract is backloaded. So next season he'll be making around 10 mil, but then it jumps towards the $30 million range. So if you go out and you front load contracts where you're paying guys the guys you're bringing in more money the year that Watson is being paid nothing essentially, and then you have it where they're not making as much when you're paying all your money to Deshaun Watson, that could work, and your team is completely turned around. You have a franchise quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in Deshaun Watson. I personally think he's a top 5 leader in completion percentage. He's extremely efficient. He can use his legs, and just a quarterback that can really turn around the franchise of the Jets. I have an honorable mention for this one.
Okay.
Just because it kind of makes sense. Jimmy Garoppolo. Former defensive coordinator in San Francisco, now the head coach of the New York Jets and Robert Saleh in New York. I could see him getting Jimmy G just because he's familiar with him. He knows what San Fran will want in return, and it just makes sense to me. So I could also see Jimmy Garoppolo being in New York as well.
Okay, so 2 potential options in New York. You don't have a third option in keeping Sam Darnold? You think
third option would be Sam Darnold, but I would put him honestly below those 2. I think Deshaun Watson going to the Jets now is no longer a rumor. It's more of just waiting for when. I don't think he's going to Miami. I think he's going to the Jets. Especially with all these stupid rumors is like, oh, Deshaun Watson spotted in New York City. Oh, he's liking jersey swaps of himself in a Jets jersey. Like I just see that as like a 21st century thing to do where it's like you're hinting at you're going to the Jets. You're just waiting on the right package to be made by the 2 teams.
Yeah, Watson hasn't fully come out and said trade me yet, but he's kind of towed that line saying he wants out of Houston. So I think it's a matter of time. I think both of those are very reasonable, and I guess we'll wait to see what happens. Let's move on. And this is another team that was kind of thrown in the fire of talking about, do we move on from Tua Tagovailoa and go and get Deshaun Watson, another AFC East team, Miami Dolphins? Who's their quarterback next year?
I still see it being Tua Tagovailoa. I don't see Miami giving up on their second-year quarterback, even though I didn't like what I saw from him that much this year. I just don't think any team should give up on their quarterback this early, and especially because he showed so much promise in college. He wasn't the worst. He wasn't the best this year. If he takes a big step leading into next year, or if he doesn't take that big step, then I would assess again. But for right now, I think he stays QB1.
All righty. So it looks like it's a choice for Deshaun between the cold New York City streets or the Miami Beach. I guess we'll see which one he goes with. All right, here's another interesting one. Phillip Rivers announced his retirement this morning. Who will be the Indianapolis Colts quarterback in 2021?
A man that needs to win. And that man is Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford and the Colts, out of all of these so far, makes sense. The man needs to win. The Colts have a decent wide receiver core, great running back in Jonathan Taylor. Don't forget about Marlon Mack. He's legit too, and he's still there. He was hurt all year. One of the best defensive units in the NFL, combined with a great head coach in Frank Reich. I think it's a perfect fit for Matt Stafford.
All right, so Stafford jumping ship from Detroit after they just hired their new head coach, Dan Campbell. I think Matt Stafford has seen enough, and I think our man Steve Hostinski would attest to that. A lot of rough years in Detroit, and another franchise who's been hurting. A lot of media surrounding them this year. It's been a whirlwind since the benching of Carson Wentz, promoting Jalen Hurts to the starting spot, the benching in Week 17 that everyone was in uproar about. The Philadelphia Eagles fired Doug Peterson. They're still looking for a head coach. Who is their next quarterback in Philadelphia? Is Jalen Hurts stay? Do they keep Carson Wentz? And then we'll move on. And if Carson Wentz is out, where does he go? But start here with the Eagles. Who do they have?
So I'm going to have fun with this one, and this one's going to be a 2-for-1. So I can tell you one thing. It will not be Carson Wentz because he will no longer be an Eagle. All right? Because Carson Wentz is going to be traded to the San Francisco 49ers. Because, again, the 49ers are a team who are a QB away from being a top contender in the NFL. Very good defense, solid running game, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, something Wentz loves throwing to. For example, Ertz and Goddard. This fit makes too much sense to me. The only problem I see is how can they make a trade work? But then going back to Philly, trading Carson Wentz will be the worst decision, that they'll make ever. They're going to stick with Jalen Hurts, getting a new coach, a new quarterback, essentially, rebuild time for the Eagles, and the team goes into decades of a drought in search of a new quarterback, and it'll be the modern-day version of the curse of the Bambino. It'll be the curse of Nick Foles, which will be known as like I just said, will be known as the modern-day curse of the Bambino. You could call it the curse of Wentz as well, because he's involved in this. But that Super Bowl ring will be the only ring they'll see until the year 2106. 86 years, just like the curse of the Bambino. And in that year, they defeat the team, and they defeat the 49ers in the NFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl, which they will win. Bold take. I'm not going to be alive for it, probably, unless I live to see over 100. But that is my bold take.
That is very specific, and I love it. That was incredible. That was good. That would be something, and it's absolutely something that I think could be possible. I think it's just great that you went so specific as in they're going to beat the 49ers.
Anyway. The NFC, I mean, who knows? I mean, the divisions could be completely turned over by the year 2106.
Very true. They could be playing 8-man football by that point.
they could all just be on Madden at that point.
All right.
Virtual reality.
You mentioned the 49ers, so I think the direction you're going in, so let's hear it.
I already said Carson Wentz to the 49ers. I just think it makes way too much sense. Carson Wentz to the 49ers.
Okay.
And that's what sets this whole entire curse in motion.
All right. And then last team. This is I don't know. This is kind of the outlier of the group because within all those other 5 teams I mentioned, there's a real case for the Deshaun Watson movement, the flip between where Carson Wentz goes if he doesn't stay in Philadelphia. So this is the outlier, and it's because I don't think people saw what they wanted to see out of Cam Newton in New England this year. What does Bill Belichick do next year? Where do they go? Who is going to be their quarterback?
I'll tell you who is going to be their quarterback. It's not going to be Cam Newton. It's not going to be Jared Stidham. It is going to be Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is going to be under center for the New England Patriots next year. He is going to jump from one team in the AFC East to the other. A failed draft pick in New York goes to the Pats, makes the Jets look dumb for not being able to develop him. But Wild Bill and the boys are going to make him look like a stud. And the AFC East magically becomes the most competitive division in all of football because Bill Belichick is going to make Sam Darnold not an elite quarterback, just a quarterback that can win you games. All right. He's not going to be the next Tom Brady. He's going to be just good enough where you can win and have a winning Sam Darnold, a Deshaun Watson with the Jets, a very good defensive team in the Dolphins with we don't know what Tua's going to look like yet, and then add in Josh Allen and the Bills. It's going to be the most competitive division in the AFC East.
Whew. That would be fun. MVP candidate.
Most competitive division in football. I'm sorry. Most competitive division in football. I said the most competitive division in the AFC East, which makes absolutely no sense.
In football. Okay. Yeah. An MVP candidate in Josh Allen, a refurbished Sam Darnold in a new spot, a Deshaun Watson, and a Tua Tagovailoa. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So here I'm going to run through real quick, Connor. I'm not going to go into the depth. I agree. I think these are good. I can see all of these outcomes happening. The only thing that I think where I could see this going, this is where I could see this flipping a little bit, is it's something that I came up with a couple months ago that we talked about. I think Deshaun Watson does go to the Jets. They say goodbye to Sam Darnold. But here's where it gets a little interesting. I think Carson Wentz leaves Philadelphia and doesn't go to San Francisco. I think he goes to Indianapolis. I think Matt Stafford actually stays in Detroit. I just don't think he's a guy that I don't think is going to move anywhere. I think he's like, I'm staying in Detroit, win or lose. I'm staying in Detroit. So I think Carson Wentz goes to Indianapolis. I think Sam Darnold goes across the country to play in San Francisco. I don't know what it is about it, but I can see Sam Darnold in the San Francisco 49ers uniform. I can just picture it right now. And then that would leave Jimmy Garoppolo, who, but if this goes right, they're going on Sam Darnold. They're saying goodbye to Jimmy Garoppolo. How about him heading back to New England where he started and where he was forcibly traded away when the first time ever that Bob Kraft put himself into football relations and went over the head of Bill Belichick, a guy who Bill Belichick wanted for when Brady left. Garoppolo back in New England. So that's the only differential that I think will go here. Is that fair? I think I agree with a lot, but that would be the one different kind of outcome that we'd see.
That is fair, and I wanted to lean in the Jimmy G back in Foxborough route as well, but to me, I feel like that's just going to cause way too much drama with Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick. I feel like it's going to be one of those things where, I mean, we saw all the reports beforehand of how, I don't know if you remember that very in-depth, like it was Bleacher Report, but it was credible, of how there's all this drama that goes on between the Krafts and Bill Belichick, and that's what led to Brady almost basically leaving, and how he was rumored to want to leave or retire for years before he did. I just think that it's going to lead to, a little trouble in Bob Kraft's little fantasy land.
Well, trouble always comes around at some point. Things come crashing to an end. They don't last forever. And that could be, if that's it, that would be the nail in the coffin right there. Especially if Tom Brady goes on and potentially wins another Super Bowl somewhere else. But all right, there's your 2021 NFL fortune teller. There's what Connor and I can see happening. QB's landing in different spots for next season. That could be interesting. I'm really ready to see what happens in the next couple weeks. It's going to shake up the draft too. If the Jets trade away that second pick to Houston to get Deshaun Watson, it's interesting to see where Houston will go with those picks. So that being said, Connor, any last words before we head into our final?
No, bring us home with the last call. I'm going to kick back and I'm going to enjoy.
All right, last call here. So, as we mentioned earlier, Phillip Rivers announced his retirement today. And just speaking to him, great guy, funny as hell. When he's mic'd up on the field, he's a funny guy. Someone I can absolutely see coaching some football in his future. He's a guy that if you look at his career, you could argue was actually a lot better at certain things than Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, the two guys he came in with in 2004, who may find themselves in the Hall of Fame. Rivers is probably on the outside looking in. We also just saw Drew Brees play his final game on Sunday in New Orleans. Connor mentioned about it. Hell of a career. One of the most unforeseen QB stars that came out of the shadows. He wins a Super Bowl title for New Orleans. The NFL's passing yards leader. And the last 4 playoff runs in his career end in unbelievable ways. Hard to see him go out like this. Ben Roethlisberger just threw 4 interceptions, got embarrassed at home by Cleveland in the wild card. He walks off the field in tears. His career is coming to an end, whether it be this year or next year. We saw Eli Manning basically get ran out of New York a couple years ago, and he got benched, finished the year out, and he walks off. Last half of his career kind of blew up in flames after a couple of heroic and historic Super Bowl runs early on. And his brother Peyton Manning, we saw walk off into the sunset after Super Bowl 50 and winning his second ring. My point is, it's the end of an era is upon us, and the beginning of a new one is dawning. An era for people like you and me, Connor, guys in their 20s who grew up watching these guys. These were the faces of the franchise. They're the quarterbacks that made us fall in love with the game of football in the NFL. The Brady and Manning rivalry, the class of 2004 that came storming into the league right away, shifted the course of the league. We watched their successes, their failures of each quarterback. We've debated about them year after year. In 2020 and on, we have a new era of franchises, a new era of QBs taking over the league. It started in 2017 with Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, followed by a 2018 draft class, which was the most treasured QB class probably in history. Mayfield, Allen, Jackson, and Darnold, 3 of which played in the divisional round of the playoffs this past weekend in their 3rd seasons. The other 4, another young quarterback in Jared Goff from a 2016 draft, and then you have the older guys. As we enter the conference title games this weekend, I want you to all look at the NFC title game and tell me what the anomaly is. Who doesn't fit in this new era of QBs? What stands out? Okay, you could say Aaron Rodgers. He's there, but he's kind of thrown in the middle of the old era and the new era, and he's still going. He has some time left. But there's one guy who has defied the odds of time. He's defied the odds of age. He has defied the odds of a divorce with the greatest coach of all time that ended with him going to the conference title game with a franchise who hadn't made it there since 2002 season. He defies the exact point I'm pushing right now that we are in a new era of stars because he's the only one left. Tom Brady. And I'm here to say, I told you. For years I've heard the same old crap. Tom Brady is done. The Patriots dynasty is over. Tom Brady sucks. He only wins by cheating. He's a system quarterback. He gets lucky every time. Folks, people don't typically last long in this league. It's not normal for QBs to play more than 15 to 18 years, and that's pretty great. It's not normal to be in the conference championship 8 times in a row. It has taken many franchises, ones like Buffalo and Cleveland, who have overcame that hump this year. It took over 2 decades for them to even win one single playoff game. One. Tom Brady has 32. He has triple the playoff losses than the Bills and Browns have ever stepped foot on a playoff turf. When Apple took over Microsoft, people called it the end of an era for Microsoft. Gave all the cards to Apple to run the technology world. As of 2020, over 1.4 billion Apple products are owned across the globe, smashing Microsoft. Sure, Microsoft Office is still widely used for emails and stuff. I use Microsoft for email and other things, but we're talking computers and iPhone devices. It's not even close. Tom Brady is Microsoft. It was the product early on and into the middle of his career. Since then, a new product is taken over, and yet there's still a bit of Microsoft left. Tom Brady is that little bit of Microsoft. He's the only one still going, and he's the only one still succeeding. One of the top hits in Broadway in this century was Hamilton, based on the true story off of transcript, scripts, books, written letters on Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers of this country. It's a story of a guy who came from nothing, landed in the U.S. He had a vision, had one of the greatest minds in history, fought in the Revolutionary War, wrote 51 essays of the Federalist Papers leading to the Constitution. He was George Washington's right-hand man. He defended the Constitution in court. He wrote financial systems into existence. We wouldn't have banks if it weren't for Alexander Hamilton. He did have a bad side. Turns out he had a lot of enemies, pissed a lot of people off. His arrogance got in the way and led to his death. but that's where greatness has a price. There's a line. If you're over great, people aren't going to like you. There's quotes like from the play, I'm a diamond in the rough, a shiny piece of coal. Don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. I never thought I'd live past 20. Where I come from, some get half as many. I wrote my way out of hell. I wrote my way to revolution. I was louder than the crack in the bell. I wrote about the Constitution and defended it well. Tom was the 199th pick in the draft. 199. No one believed in him. He was one of those guys that would last for a few years, be a backup in his career, or be done. He had a vision. He worked his butt off. He studied film. He wrote things down. He took a shot at an opportunity that was handed to him in New England. Most of the guys of his background are a backup, have short careers. He beat the odds of a late round pick. He beat the odds of time. He's made history, written in record books time and time again. He gave his life to football and to the Patriots organization like Alexander Hamilton gave his life to starting a free country. You could say that George Washington to Hamilton was the Bill Belichick to Tom Brady. Excelled together, created a dynasty, but when they went on to be great and excel by their own, they didn't need them in their corner. Hamilton's band of brothers featured in this play, Marquis de Lafayette, John Lawrence, Hercules Mulligan. They were the Randy Moss, the Wes Welker, the Julian Edelmans to Tom Brady. They are the leader of the men. They paved the way for all of their success. Tom Brady, Alexander Hamilton made all of them better and stamped their names into the history book. That doesn't just happen. Microsoft still has a platform, still has geniuses in the company. Hamilton died as one of the founding fathers. You don't get lucky 32 times in the playoffs. It's not happening. Tom Brady may not have not been the most athletic guy or have the best arm ever. Tom Brady just wins. He's a winner. He's a leader. He understands the game and has made a life of it. So for all of you out there who doubted him after year, or cheered against him, shame on you. In 50 years when we're grandparents, we'll tell our grandkids about football. They're going to be football fans. What will be the easiest story to tell? It's a story of Tom Brady, the New England Patriots, and a dynasty because they won over and over and over. It's burned in our brains. That's what I grew up on, was the New England Patriots winning. Can we just embrace that? Can we learn to enjoy that we have a once-in-a-lifetime football player living in real time? And he's moved on, and he's continuing it outside of that dynasty, making it even more great. So for everyone who picked New Orleans Saints this weekend, I have several. We listed them off the other day. A lot of the guys, I asked for their scores. They all picked New Orleans. I told you weeks ago that Tom Brady and the Bucs were going to make the conference title. It's in our bracket that we did before the playoffs even started. To me, this was the easiest pick of the playoffs. Tom Brady does not lose to the same team 3 times in a year, and he never will. A new era in football it is. I'm excited about it. We are sitting in the same spot that 20-year-olds in the early 2000s were sitting in. New talent, new rivalries, a new spectrum across the league. I'm ecstatic about it. But there's still one guy there, and one guy who will be in the way for a couple more years. And there's nothing you can do about it. Tom Brady's playing in his 14th conference title game. I'll never doubt him, and neither should you. I told you. Tom Brady is here, and you'll see him again on Sunday. And I hope you enjoy the 60 minutes of Tom Brady and the Aaron Rodgers show. Last call. So
are you predicting a Tampa Bay win?
No, and that's where my point being here. We'll take it into Friday, but I'm not even saying Tom Brady's going to win this weekend. I'm not going to review my pick yet. That's just based off of this weekend. We told everyone Tampa Bay was going to win this football game. It wasn't even a question. I should have bet every single penny in my pocket on that. But, and Frank came on and said they were going to win by 2 scores. He was right about the 2 scores. Everyone else picked New Orleans. I think Steve also picked Tampa Bay. So we got a few guys on our side. Actually, I think Kyle did too, but the other more than I thought. But a lot of people are counting them out. But Connor, hey, we're 4 for 4 in conference, in our 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs.
And nobody can tell us nothing.
Nobody. But that's that. Connor, anything else?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head here. I mean, like I said, even like if there's people in the world that should hate Tom Brady, it should definitely be me. But I mean, when you there's a difference between kind of hating to face somebody, and also you need to be able to understand greatness and appreciate it when it's happening. I went on this rant last week, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head here. I mean, you just kind of built off what I kept saying, and then decided to add in a little Alexander Hamilton Broadway.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's exactly the point that I was trying to get across last week too. I mean, you just got to enjoy it. You got to appreciate it, because we're going to be telling our kids about it for sure. I mean, he's going to be, now that Breeze is done, he's going to be basically the leader in every single passing record, the most winningest, player ever. And he's just a generational talent, a generational player, and something that we're never going to see again.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm just trying to make, is you have to appreciate it and understand it. Connor, I've a long time. I've loved the New York Giants since I was a little kid. The first time I started watching football, I accepted the fact once we got around a few years ago. I was like, it's going to be Carson. At the time, it was Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott, and early on it was Robert Griffin III in Washington, but that didn't pan out. I was like, the Giants are going to have to deal with that for 10, 20 years, and they're not going to – I just came to accept it. I was like, I would love to see these guys excel and exceed. You just have to put those things aside at some point. So that's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Trying to embrace it, understand the greatness, and and just enjoy this. Again, this week, Connor, you told people to enjoy Breeze and Brady. Well, we get a chance to enjoy Brady and Rodgers, so which we may never see that again. So that's it. Yep. We're Beyond the Box Score today. Thank you for joining us, however you may be listening or watching. Here on Facebook Live, we will have the show posted on our YouTube. Subscribe to Beyond the Box Score on YouTube. We'll have it there. Connor, a pleasure again. And we'll be back on Friday. We're going to sift through this and make our picks, bold predictions for the conference title games. Super Bowl on the line. And that's it from Beyond the Box Score. Have a good one.